Have either of you guys ever studied quantum physics?
Is it weird that the most crucial grenade pin character in the whole MCU is a guy who can't keep a job at Baskin-Robbins?
Baskin-Robbins always finds out.
Known by critics for being one of the, pun not intended, or maybe intended, who knows, smaller MCU franchises, the Ant-Man movies are more contained and have lower stakes and are generally not as universe-shattering as, say, The Avengers or anything with Doctor Strange. So you may just be a tiny bit shocked to find out that now Ant-Man, along with his buddies, will be responsible for the very future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everything rests on Ant-Man's tiny shoulders. And actually, we shouldn't be surprised at all because it's all been there in plain sight all along. So let's get into it. All of it. Well, okay, maybe just the facts. Is this a good time to mention the co-writer of this video?
Hey, hold on. I like a good story as much as the next person, but what in the hell does this have to do with where Scott Lang is?
I'm getting there.
You put a dime in him, you gotta let the whole song play out.
Alright, so I was at an opera with my boy Brian, and we were watching Madame Butterfly, and I gotta say, it was a dope aria. Like, damn, what a transcendent coloratura. I'm legit emotional. But then Brian was all, you gotta check out this movie Ant-Man, and I was like, wait, isn't Paul Rudd like 50 years old? How's that gonna be? And Brian's like, Rudd looks great, and besides, he's younger than Tom Cruise, and you know that guy's jumping off planes and— Wait. I need to focus. Okay, we're going over Ant-Man 2015, starring Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, and Evangeline Lilly. This is our introduction to MCU Ant-Man. All right, let's get the facts. Just the facts. So this guy Scott Lang starts off in a pretty bad place. He's a convicted criminal, fresh out of the hole, and he gets picked up by his buddy, Luis, who got out like a year ago, and he's like, uh-oh, I need a job. And Luis is like, have you considered crime? And Scott's like, no way, my wife left me and I gotta stay on the straight and narrow for my daughter. So he spends like 15 minutes working at Baskin-Robbins, and then he's like, okay, time for crime. So he teams up with Luis, Dave, and Kurt to rob this old rich scientist dude, Dr. Hank Pym, and he's mad grumpy. He created Ant-Man technology, which can shrink someone really small, like, I don't know, an ant, except even smaller, but he quit S.H.I.E.L.D. back in the 80s because they wanted to use his technology to ants he considered dangerous. And Dr. Pym was like, I'm out, don't touch my stuff. Turns out he lost his wife Janet on a mission in the subatomic quantum realm years ago and never got over it. And his daughter Hope, who has this haircut, also never got over it. And now his protege Darren Cross is like, cool, I'm using the Ant-Man technology again anyway. P.S. I'm Yellow Jacket, and I'm gonna work with Hydra. So Scotty cat burgles the old Ant-Man suit from Dr. Pym, uses it, and is like, what? And then he goes back, and the police are like, nice try, dum-dum. Dr. Pym bails Scott out like, psych, that was a test, and you passed. You're Ant-Man now. You also control the ants. Go steal a thing I need from the Avengers. And then Sam Wilson, aka Falcon at the time, is like, oh no! And Hope is like, we will never fall in love, and you will never become good at Ant-Man stuff. But then they do, and he does. And Scott and the ants go up against Yellow Jacket, who kidnapped Scott's daughter Cassie, who he loves, and who he spent the whole movie trying to better himself for. Scott pulls a very risky move in the quantum realm to mess with Yellow Jacket's suit, making it shrink uncontrollably forever, stopping and maybe killing him. Don't think about it too hard. And the police are like, you're good, bro. Dr. Pym is like, wait, Scott came back from the quantum realm? Maybe my wife Janet is still there. ... Then Luis is like, here's Stan Lee. Also, Falcon is looking for you. Mid-credits, Dr. Pym is all, oh, hey Hope, remember how you got sidelined despite how you're my daughter and you're smarter and more competent than Scott, some guy I just met, and he's Ant-Man and not you? My bad, you're the Wasp now. And then, after the credits, Sam Wilson approaches Steve Rogers, who's hiding Bucky, who has this haircut, and he's like, we need help for the Captain America Civil War. And Sam says he knows someone. Luis already explained Captain America Civil War pretty well himself, so let's let him.
And then Scotty's like, you know what? I can't tell you this, but I'm gonna go trash in the airport with Captain America. And then she said, I can't believe you split like that. Smell you later, dummy. So Scotty goes on house arrest, and he won't admit it, but his heart is all like, damn, I thought Hope could have been my new true partner, but I—
Wait. That's too short. And it involved stuff that never happened on camera. Even though it's nice to see how Hope felt about things despite not being in the movie, but here's pretty much how it went. Captain America and Iron Man have beef with each other. It's about the Sokovia Accords, but really, it's about this Manchurian candidate guy who Cap's like, no, he's my best friend. But Tony's like, I thought we were best friends. That's always awkward when you think you're besties with someone and they're like, psych, here's some other person you weren't even thinking about. My heart goes out to him. Anyway, The Avengers team up on different sides, and Scott gets recruited to Mr. Rogers' side because you'll remember he and Falcon fought a little and he was impressed. Scott is really into teaming up with Captain America, and then Cap warns him that what they're doing is not illegal, and Scott is like, okay. So he trashes the airport with Captain America, like Louise said. He kicks Spider-Man in the face and gets his ass kicked by Black Widow. Has anyone noticed how many bug-faced superheroes there are? Like a lot. Also, he exploded a truck and messed up the inside of Iron Man's suit before growing into Giant Man for the first time, and fought Team Iron Man like Godzilla until they assault on Echo Base, maneuver him, which is all pretty great, except Scott winds up in prison again. Like again. Steve busts him out of the raft, but later Scott and Clint, the dads of the group, gotta take care of those kids, take house arrest deals to stay out of the raft. But also, he isn't allowed to be in contact with a Pym Van Dyne, so Hope's "smell you later, dummy" may have just been a practical smell you later instead of a mean one. Scott sends the suit to Luis for safekeeping, and he probably never tried to use it or anything. Leave him alone.
I wish I had a suit. I would even like a suit with like minimal powers, you know? Or maybe even just a suit with no powers.
Dr. Pym is like, oh, remember how Scott didn't die in the quantum realm, Hope? I think your dead mom might be not dead. And so they build a quantum tunnel so they can find out for real. Meanwhile, Scott's been trapped inside his home for years. Oh, what's that like? And when he went subatomic, he apparently got quantumly entangled with Janet, which is not a sex thing. And now he's getting messages from her. So obviously, Hope and Hank break house arrest and kidnap Scott, which could send him to the pen. Again. They say they opened a tunnel to the quantum realm. And guess what? Janet is still alive in there, and they need Scott to help buy a component from this rich jerk for the tunnel because they don't have a lot of time. This rich jerk's like, blah, 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 no deal, leave the money. So, Hope as Wasp kicks his ass and takes the part. Hope's like, later, loser. But then this ghost-like figure, I think her name is Ghost, is like, yo, give me that part. And she and Scott fight her, but then they lose, and she steals Hank Pym's whole lab, which, oh, I didn't mention, Pym shrank the whole lab down into a rolling suitcase, so it's actually not that hard to steal. They meet up with Pym's former S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist partner Bill Foster, who, spoiler alert, still has beef with him. Learning more about Ghost, her name is Ava Starr, and her dad was another disgruntled partner of Hank Pym's because I guess he made hostile work environments wherever he went. It's basically Hank's fault she's quantumly unstable and she wants to kill Janet to get her quantum energy so she can live, and Hank is like, no way, ding dong, and they bounce and make their own tunnel. Okay, I can't do that anymore. You get it. I'm just going to tell the story how I want to tell it for a while now. Scott gets possessed by Janet, who tells Hope and Hank how to find her, and all of Scott's friends regroup together. The ants stop Ghost from going to the quantum realm. Hank suits up and goes in instead. Tardigrades sound like whales. Janet is found, and there's a big and tiny chase. Scott gets the lab back, but then he passes out from being a giant, and Hope saves him while Ghost expands the lab in the middle of the street so she can save herself, but Janet and Hank return just in time, and Janet helps cure Ghost sort of E.T. style. Everything is good again. Cassie, Scott, and Hope watch a movie, ex-con security gets business, Ava isn't going to die, and Janet and Hank have a new beach house with no means of plumbing. Mid-credits, Hank, Janet, and Hope send Scott to the quantum realm via a new tunnel in Luis's van so they can get quantum energy to help heal Ghost, who everyone is cool with now. Great idea, except that this is exactly when Thanos snaps and blips everyone who can pull Scott home, and he's trapped. Why isn't there a superhero alert system for major battles or something? Ant-Man and the Wasp will return? I don't need to sum up the world state at the top of Avengers Endgame, but here it is. Everything is bad. The world is devastated with half the population turned to ash, and those left behind are left to mourn and weep in the rubble. There is but one hero, one shining beacon whom all the world's hopes for tomorrow are pinned on, whose tiny shoulders carry entirely. I'm clearly talking about the rat that steps on the control in the van. The rat is able to step on the correct controls to help free Scott from the impounded quantum tunnel van where he'd been trapped for 5 years. He lost 5 years of time, and the world thinks he's one of the many dead. The world is different and scary, and Cassie is almost all grown up, but Ant-Man is back in action. Thanks, Rat! So Scott runs over to what's left of Avengers headquarters and finds Natasha and Steve. He explains quantum physics to them, which is pretty wild considering how the other people who know about this stuff are scientists, and his expertise is in ice cream cake and cat burglary.
Look, man, I got a master's in electrical engineering, all right?
But he says he has a time travel idea that can save everyone. They meet up with Professor Hulk to figure it all out. Even though Scott is still super starstruck and pees his pants for unrelated reasons, he and the other heroes get it together for the time heist. The only catch is there's only a little bit of Pym particles left and they can only make one trip before they run out. Scott doesn't consider they could just get more from past Pym, but that's okay. They do call Back to the Future bullshit in an argument though, which is kind of not okay. They go back in time and Scott gets to retroactively be in the Avengers 2012. Remember how much fun that was? Scott catches a ride on 2012 Iron Man and gives him a heart attack as a diversion, and well, the Loki TV series gets set in motion. We'll get back to that later. Cap and Iron Man figure it out, and they do remember there's more Pym particles in the past, and everything turns out great, except Black Widow dies. Hope, Hank, and Janet return with the rest of the blipped population when Hulk re-snaps. Or is it unsnaps? Snaps. Giant Scott rescues Hulk, Rhodey, and Rocket, and they all battle for the future, and everyone sacrifices and losses, and it rules. Then Hope is part of the girl boss moment, and it doesn't rule. Hope and Scott hotwire the quantum tunnel van to return the stones, but Thanos blows it up, so there goes that plan. I think we all know how this movie ends, but long story short, they win, and Hope, Scott, Janet, and Hank get to go home, and then they all have to go to a funeral. All good for now? For now. Wait. I did mention that the whole Loki series was kickstarted by a failure on Scott and Tony's part in Avengers Endgame, and as we all know, doing stuff weird in the past always causes consequences. The 2012 Loki was let loose in the time stream, captured by the TVA, fought himself, fell in love with himself, and eventually made it to the end of everything. And that's where he meets someone important. He Who Remains. This is where we get into the multiversal stuff, not just micro. He Who Remains is a variant of Nathaniel Richards, a scientist descendant of Reed Richards from the far future who discovered other realities exist. Another variant is Kang, who along with other variants at the discovery of multiversal worlds, started the multiversal war that would, you know, put an end to everything, everywhere, even the places you've never and will never hear of. He was stopped by He Who Remains, who created the Time Variance Authority and essentially became the master of the sacred timeline, and everything was cool and the danger was held at bay, until Sylvie chose violence. And now Kang, the ruthless, seemingly ever-present one who loves time travel and conquering everything, he's running the show, which is bad. This is bad for everyone we know. You thought giving Iron Man a heart attack on purpose and getting possessed by Michelle Pfeiffer was weird? Well, buckle up, baby! What If isn't exactly the canon mainline 616 MCU timeline, but as history has shown, it could phase into relevance. In this show, Scott gets turned into a zombie by zombie Hank and Janet. Hope manages to shrink and get away at least, but then Vision collects Scott's head and unzombies him with the Mind Stone, and then he gets a life support jar and the former Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation. Hope keeps on surviving and helping others using ants to kill zombies, which is an application I never knew existed. Scott, Peter Parker, and T'Challa seem like they're going to escape the zombie apocalypse that zombie Scarlet Witch made like 1,000,000 times worse. But then Hope shows up in full strength as a zombie. Turns out exploding zombie Sharon Carter had some bad side effects, but she sacrificed herself for the group in the end. In giant zombie form, she tries to grab their quadjet, but they get away and use the Mind Stone to stop the zombies worldwide. And finally, we're getting ready for the next, perhaps greatest Ant-Man and the Wasp adventure yet, Quantumania. We only have teasers and trailers for this, and there's only one way to sum it up. Scott has the perfect life. He's like, yeah, I got everything now. I'm even in the Rogers musical, but you know what I don't have? The last few years with my daughter Cassie growing up. I love that little kid, even though she's not so little anymore. So the whole gang accidentally goes to the quantum realm because I guess Cassie's in the family business now. Hank, Janet, Hope, Cassie, and Scott all go subatomic, and this guy Kang's like, I can help you with your time problem, let's make a deal. Because as you may know, the Marvel Comics character he's based on is pretty extra dimensional, and this dude loves time travel, like loves it. Janet's like, don't make a deal, and Scott's all, okay, I won't, but I will. And now, there's little tiny wild stuff going on deep in Kang's quantum realm kingdom, and Scott's made a big mistake he has to fix, and Kang is going to be a major problem. A Jonathan Majors problem. At least that's what the trailers are putting out there. So that's pretty much Scott Lang's path so far, along with our other protagonist, Hope Van Dyne. He came from humble beginnings as an ex-con, and now he's a key character, an absolute linchpin in the whole MCU. It's been there all along, too. Starting after his group introduction in Captain America Civil War, Ant-Man was front and center to universe-altering events, with his experience in the quantum realm becoming absolutely key in restoring not only characters' lives in the movies, but literally everyone, galaxy-wide. The solution in Avengers Endgame doesn't happen without Scott returning with a plan and uplifting everyone's broken spirits. The time heist doesn't happen without him, neither does anything involving the quantum realm, which is key going forward. Now that the branching and broken timelines established in the Loki series, which Scott and Tony indirectly caused, by the way, are becoming the next major obstacle in a post-Thanos MCU. Ant-Man is the key to these major MCU moments, and he's about to do it all again. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is where we'll first meet the real Kang, who will most likely be a recurring issue going forward, since the character is able to sort of always exist in some way in pursuit of utter timeline domination. Kang's methodology heavily relies on time travel and the quantum realm. These are Ant-Man's de facto commands, more so than any other hero. Whatever happens in Quantumania for the foreseeable future of the MCU, Ant-Man will continue to be one of the most important pieces on the board. Thanks for watching. I'm Kim Horcher. Storytelling the way Luis does is super hard, and he deserves your respect. For more Ant-Man and the Wasp, here's the Quantum Realm Explained, so definitely check that out, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.
What's it gonna be? Ant-Man.